All right, we're going to move to the next one, and we're going to pick up the speed a bit. So really, I'm going to look for two numbers that multiply to 24. So I'm going to write 24 there, but whose sum is negative 10. So whose product is positive 24, but whose sum is negative 10. Since the product is positive, that implies that both those numbers either have to be positive or negative. Since the sum is negative, that implies that both those numbers have to be negative. What two numbers multiply to 24 but add to negative 10? That's right, negative 6, negative 4. So I'm just going to decompose that middle term so it looks like this. Now, this question has something new in it, but we don't know that yet. So I'm going to break this up here and here in pairs, just like we've done before. Now, in my first pair, what is the greatest common factor? My greatest common factor is 3x. If I factor out 3x from that first pair, I'm left with x minus 2. We're good. However, what is new in this? So right now, our coefficient here, the first coefficient in that second pair, is negative, right? So here, I need to say, whenever this number is negative, we have to factor out a negative. Okay? So now I'm taking a look at this second pair here. What is the greatest common factor of negative 4x and positive 8? You might say 4, and you wouldn't be wrong, but for the sake of factoring, we have to factor out a negative 4. And that will leave me with x minus 2. Now remember, it was really critically important that those two expressions in the brackets have to be equal. So I can say factor out GCF among pairs, and really we're done. Whew. All right. Let's do this for real now. Okay. Allow me to look at E. The question that I always should be asking myself, does there exist a greatest common factor with these three terms? With these three terms. With these three terms. With these three terms. None of them have a greatest common factor amongst the terms. If they did, you have a much easier question. So you always want to factor out the greatest common factor if one exists. But since they don't exist, I'm going to have to factor by decomposition. I'm going to multiply A and C and put negative 30. What two numbers multiply to negative 30 but add to 7? What two numbers multiply, the product is negative 30, but add to positive 7? That's right, these two numbers. There we are, 10 and 3. Now, a lot of people will want to put the negative 3 with the negative, or will want to put the negative 3 with the first term. We'll want to write it as 3x squared plus 3x minus, or sorry, there should be a minus 3x plus 10 minus 10, right? Keep the 3's together and keep the 10's together. I don't really find that particularly useful. It really doesn't matter which one you do. What I like is putting the unlike things together. So 3x squared plus 10x gross. It doesn't really make sense, but minus 3x minus 10. Right? I decompose that. I look amongst the pair, what is the greatest common factor with this? It's going to be x. So it's 3x plus 10. What is the greatest common factor among the second pair? Well, they're both negative. Remember, you have to factor out a negative to make sure that that first term is positive. Here we are. By the way, that should be 10. It looks like 16. There. I factored it. Really, this skill needs a lot of practice. Really super important. Okay? Please practice, practice, practice.